It's 2:31 a.m. in Ilford, East London. The streets are all but silent. Only the hum of streetlights and distant traffic breaks the quiet. A man walks into the police station. He's alone, unrushed, and he's eating. He holds a white bag in one hand, a tray of food in the other. Steam curls up from the noodles inside. The desk officer looks up, puzzled. The man sets his food on the counter and says, almost casually, "I've done the worst thing." The officer hesitates. "What do you mean?" The man takes another bite, chews, and repeats, "The worst thing." The night before, the man looked just like anyone else, a man in his late 30s, a black jacket with 2 white stripes across the chest. He was walking down a quiet street in Great Baddow. CCTV caught him at 6:30 p.m, pushing open the door of the Blue Lion pub. Inside, the place was half full. Thursday night regulars, low laughter, and the stale smell of beer. He walked to the bar, ordered a drink, and stood there like it was just any other evening. Nothing about him drew any attention. He chatted briefly, he smiled once, and he drank his drink. But what no one in that pub knew was that, a few miles away, something terrible had already happened. After finishing his drink, he disappeared into the pub bathroom. There he stayed for a few minutes, and when he came out, he left without a word. Later, detectives would discover that inside that toilet cistern, beneath the water, was a black mobile phone. This phone did not belong to him. From the pub, he took a taxi to Chelmsford, in fact, to his grandmother's house. He knocked on the door, talked to her for a few minutes, polite and calm, and then he was gone again in another taxi, this time to a massage parlour across town. That massage parlour was closed, so he stood outside under the orange streetlight with his hands in his pockets, before calling another cab. This one was bound for Romford. At a second massage parlour, he stayed only briefly. The owner would later remember how distant the man seemed. By the time he left, it was after midnight. Then he stopped for food, a Chinese takeaway, chicken chow mein and spring rolls. The cashier there remembered him too. Calm, soft-spoken, he paid in cash and he wasn't in a hurry. Then the man did something that no one expected. He climbed into one more taxi and told the driver his destination, Ilford Police Station. The driver thought that he'd misheard, but the man repeated, "Police Station." When they arrived, the man thanked him. He stepped out with his food in his hand, and then he walked towards the entrance, his face pretty unreadable. But what happened next made national headlines. A man eating his dinner, whilst telling police that he'd done the worst thing. But that moment, the one that shocked everyone, was not where his story began. It began hours earlier, on a quiet street in Great Baddow, when a woman named Elise walked through the front door of his house for what she thought would just be a simple conversation. This video is sponsored by Creatives Do This, a platform that I've helped to launch that features real interviews with real artists, candle makers, musicians and creatives of all kinds who are making it work. Right now we're looking for creatives to feature, so if you've made money from your creativity, whether it's a full-time career or a new side hustle, and you want to share how you did it, we'd love to hear your story. It's just a short text-based interview and it takes around 10 minutes. And in return you get free lifetime access to everything that the platform becomes. Plus your work will get featured to inspire others and to build your brand. Hit the link in the description or the pinned comment to take the quick interview and to become one of the 100 founding members. There's now less than 50 spaces left. www.creativesdothis.com. Before the headlines, before all of this, there was Elise. She was 37, a devoted mother of 2, the kind of person who remembered your favourite song and then texted you when it came on the radio. Her family called her the glue, the friend who always showed up, the daughter who made hard days much easier. For years, Elise had lived in Great Baddow, a quiet corner near Chelmsford. It was the kind of place where people say, nothing like that ever happens here. Elise had been with a man that she'd known since they were teenagers. At first, it looked like a love that was going to last. They shared a home, a routine, and responsibilities. He had health problems and she helped. Medication, appointments, the small everyday acts of care. But something shifted over time. Kindness turned into control. Messages piled up. Calls came at all hours. Loaded apologies were blurred with pressure. By 2022, Elise made the decision that so many find impossible. She left the situation. She moved back in with her mother and she started over. Friends said that at this time she seemed lighter. She now laughed more once again, and she even found someone new, someone who made her feel safe once again. But not everyone can let go. In the weeks before April of 2023, the messages from her ex didn't stop. Some were pleading, some were calm, but all of them felt like strings were being pulled. And then came the request. Come over. I've got a birthday gift for you, a peace offering, a chance to reset boundaries. It sounded simple and it sounded safe. On April the 25th, just before 4 p.m, Elise left her mother's house. CCTV caught her walking with purpose, her coat on, handbag over her shoulder, and checking her phone as she approached Rothmans Avenue. At 4:42 p.m, she texted her new boyfriend, "You okay, babe?" And he replied at 4:49 p.m, "Course, babe." That message was never marked as read. What happened between those two timestamps would not be seen on CCTV. Instead, it would be pieced together later from silence, from red DNA, and from a room that forensically told the whole story. At first, they think he's just drunk or maybe unstable, but his voice is calm and measured. He even gives them an address, a small house in Great Baddow, Essex. Then he lowers his head as if the conversation is boring him. Officers exchange quick glances, because something about him feels wrong. It's not the words as such, it's his demeanour, his aura. One officer radios Essex Police. They send a unit to go and check on the address. As the man sits down, he continues eating his takeaway. Between mouthfuls, he murmurs, "I hope she's alright." But when they ask who she is, the man does not answer. By 5 a.m, officers arrive at the address that he mentioned, a neat, quiet house on Rothmans Avenue. The curtains are drawn and there's no movement inside. Officers knock hard on the door, but they receive no reply. They then force entry. What they find inside will stay with them forever. Near the front door, a blanket lies folded strangely on the floor. Beside it, a handbag, a pair of shoes, and a woman's coat. Beneath it all, a body, still and cold, unmistakably gone. Next to her, investigators found something small and unbearably human. It was a folded love letter, warm words about the future, plans, hope, and a life that she deserved. It's a scene that doesn't fully make sense, at least not yet, because only hours earlier, the man now sitting quietly at Ilford Police Station was seen laughing at a pub, ordering drinks, catching taxis, and going to massage parlours. To anyone that may have seen him, it just looked like a normal night out, completely ordinary. But it was far from it, and one of his stops at night, it did not belong. Her mum would later say, "She wasn't just my daughter, she was my best friend." Her children would now write about a home that suddenly felt too quiet, about birthdays that didn't sound the same anymore. And Elise's final message, "You okay, babe?" It's the words of someone kind, someone hopeful, someone reaching out for reassurance, but not having a chance to receive it in return. The man with the Chinese food, now in the police station, is making his confession. He seems to be admitting his guilt, but it doesn't appear he feels guilty. A supervisor arrives on the scene. They start asking questions and taking notes. What's your name? What address? What happened there? The man can't bring himself to mention Elise's name. But when officers arrive at the address at 5:18 a.m., the story tells itself. Her face bruised. It takes no time at all for the reality to set in. Back in Ilford, one officer turns towards a man and says softly, "They found her." The man does not flinch. He doesn't ask how she is. He doesn't get emotional. He just looks down at the empty food container in his hands. On body cam footage later shown in court, the man's voice can be heard, low, detached and almost curious. "You said you were working on her, trying to save her." But by then, there was nothing left to save. Elise had already been gone for hours. Detectives then took the man into custody. At first, he claims that he acted in self-defense. Then he says that she attacked him, that she had a sharp implement from the kitchen. But the crime scene tells another story. There is no sharp implement. There's no signs of a struggle that fits his version. Just a furious, one-sided assault, resulting in 70 separate injuries. Prosecutors would later tell the jury that jealousy was the fuse to this whole thing. That letter, those messages, the simple proof that Elise had moved on. They said that this was enough to ignite a rage that had been smouldering for months. And yet, Elise had done nothing wrong. She was just a mother trying to rebuild, trying to keep things civil, trying to believe that people can change. In the days that followed, detectives reconstructed his movements, his post-murder night out. Every step now became evidence of something chilling. They could see that he wasn't panicked, that he left the scene, had a drink, and he didn't even lose his appetite. By the time the trial began, almost a year had passed since that night. But in the courtroom, time felt frozen. Elise's family sat together in the front row, her mother Kim and her 2 children. Behind them, police officers, journalists and strangers, all waiting to hear the story told in full. The man, Mark Donovan, refused to sit in the dock. He stayed in a cell below the court, watching by video link. Even now, he couldn't face what he'd done. The prosecution's case was clear. Donovan had lured Elise to his home, and he then lost control after finding the love letter from her new partner. He then did what he did in a jealous rage. They showed the CCTV, where Elise arrived at 4:09 p.m, and then Donovan left 2 hours later. The footage of him at the pub, smiling, drinking, discarding her phone in the toilet cistern. Forensic experts described her injuries, more than 70 in total. The broken furniture, the bruises on her arms and hands, final proof that she had tried to protect herself. When it was the defense's turn to speak, Donovan still didn't testify. He claimed through his lawyers that it was self-defense, that Elise had threatened him, and that his poor mental health had clouded his judgment. But would the jurors believe him or her? They didn't even need 3 hours to decide. He was guilty of murder. When the verdict was read, the courtroom was silent except for one sound, Kim's quiet sobbing. After months of waiting, she finally heard the word that confirmed what she'd always known. Elise hadn't gone to fight him. Instead, she'd only fought to leave, fought for her own life. At sentencing, Judge Christopher Morgan looked towards the empty dock and spoke slowly. "You killed her in a jealous rage because she sent a message to her boyfriend. You attempted to destroy her newfound happiness. You have shown no remorse whatsoever, only self-pity." He paused before delivering the final line. "You simply could not accept that this woman was leaving you to find happiness." He gave him life in prison, minimum term 16 years and 50 days. But for Elise's family, no number could measure the loss. Her mother said, "She wasn't just my daughter, she was my best friend and my soulmate. Birthdays and Christmases aren't the same. We miss her so much." Elise's daughter wrote, "Mum was killed for trying to leave. She wanted a better life for us." Outside of court, Detective Inspector James Holmes stood before cameras. His voice was steady but tired. "Today isn't about triumph," he said. "It's about Elise and her children who live without their mum." Donovan is a dangerous, selfish and manipulative man. He can expect to spend the rest of his life where he belongs. And with that, the crowd outside the courtroom began to fade. The cameras turned off, but the story didn't end there. Because even now, on quiet evenings in Great Baddow, people still walk past that small house on Rothmans Avenue, the one where police broke down the door that morning, the one where Elise was found, as if she'd been trying to leave. Some nights there are still flowers left by the fence, cards that read, "For Elise, we remember you." Elise's story is not just about this one night, it's about the weeks, months and years that came before it. The slow build-up of control, jealousy and fear. It's about how easy it is to mistake control and care, and how hard it can be to leave when someone decides that they own you. But Elise did find the courage to go. She had started over. She had found joy and love once again. And that's what really makes this story so devastating. She was doing everything right, but still it wasn't enough to keep her safe. Her case is one of too many. Stories where people are hurt simply because they want to live. If you're listening to this and any of this sounds familiar, the isolation, manipulation or fear, then please reach out. There are organisations local to you that are just waiting to help. Love is not control, and remaining silent will not keep you safe. Elise Mason was more than a victim. She was a mother, a friend, a light in her family's life. She deserved peace and she deserved safety. She deserved more time that she never got to have. But if her story makes someone somewhere reach for help, then maybe her voice isn't totally lost. I'm Jack and this is Dark Case. Be careful out there and I'll see you soon.